What's up, heroes, and welcome to Saturday Morning Heroes. So, first of all, I want to say happy Pride Month, and because it is Pride Month, we are diving into some prideful cartoons. And what I mean by prideful cartoons, I mean LGBTQIA and or allied cartoons. So with that being said, let's jump right into Q-Force. Q-Force is a show that was developed by Netflix and put on by Netflix, and it is a show about the LGBTQIA community, but it's spies. And one thing that I really like about this show is that it truly is like a spy show, and they are very good at their job. Like, they don't even like make them foils or anything. Like, the fact that they aren't given assignments initially is truly terrible because they're really good at what they do. So let's jump into this show so I can share this. Also, instead of doing key episodes, we will be doing a key season because the show unfortunately only lasted one season. But in order for you to encompass the whole show, we have to go through the whole season. So let's jump right into it, starting with the characters.
Stunning icon in flight!
So with our characters, I want to start with Steve Maryweather. Steve Maryweather, or unaffectionately referred to as Mary, is one of the top recruits of the AIA. He is in the class of 2011. He actually comes out at the very top of his class, and he is a great spy. He is good at all the spy, like the flipping and the disguises and everything. He's just a magnificent, all well-rounded spy. But because he is at the top of his class and naively thinks that his sexuality should not matter to those around him, he actually comes out at his graduation. In spite of being the very top recruit of his class, he is basically shipped off to WeHo, which is West Hollywood, and basically not given any like links or any assignments or anything. They just basically ship him out there to say that he still has a job, which really sucks because, like I said, he is a very capable spy. Let's move on to our next character. Our next character is Twink, our master of disguise. Twink is like, I hate the name because it is very stereotypical, and we will get into all of that within the background of the show. But Twink is one of my favorite characters because beyond the name and beyond the drag queen-esque personality, it is much deeper and actually a really good spy. I love this about Twink. But let's talk about some of the characteristics of Twink. Twink is a French Canadian ex-carny. There are flashbacks where you find out that he was a tightrope walker and he came from a family of tightrope walkers, but unfortunately his parents felt like his bones weren't dense enough and they called him jelly bones, which was pretty offensive to him. I'm not a carny, so I don't necessarily know how offensive that would be, but I do understand that that's probably not something you want to be called by your parents, especially if this is a family business or a family career type thing. So yes, I do definitely understand that. But in spite of all of these things, Twink is still this masterful spy who is able to basically pull off every look in the book. And we see this with many of characters where Twink cosplays as them. And also, Twink is a drag queen. Twink is our residential drag queen, and Twink is very good at it. I really enjoyed him. I thought he was like one of the coolest aspects of the show. And Twink is also voiced by Matt Rogers. Deb is voiced by Wanda Sykes. Deb is a highly skilled mechanic who some kind of way got a car to fly, but she is married to Pat, and she's also a very good spy who happens to be a lesbian, who is also a part of Maryweather's team, but a very integral part of the team. We find out without Deb, things tend to fall apart, but she does hold them together. But she also has a very weak spot for, of course, her spouse, which I feel like is a very normal thing. But also we find out that Deb actually hasn't told her spouse that she's a spy, so that becomes a very gray area within the show. Stat, voiced by Patty Hernison. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, let me know in the comments. But yes, Stat is our residential hacker. She she fell in love with AI. So we don't actually know what stats pronouns or what stats preferable like spouse would be. But honestly, like we did see her fall in love with AI, and she was very, very attracted to Luca Lake. She was very attracted to Toluca Lake. So I do think that she is a lesbian, but how much of a human like lesbian? I don't, like, is there a term for someone who is like affectionate towards technology? Is there a term for that? Because I know it happens like in this day and age now. So I'm just wondering if there's a term for that. Agent Rick Buck, who is voiced by David Harbour. Rick is actually straight, but he is sent in by director Chun-Li to basically keep an eye on the Q Force and rein them in if they're doing too much, or basically tell director Chun-Li whenever something's actually going wrong. But Rick actually, while being a hindrance to the group, he does become fond of them and he becomes an integral piece of the Q Force, which we love to see that. And I also think that Rick has like a thing for Twink, but I'm not gonna go into that. I know that Twink says that he wants to top Rick though. So there's that. V, voiced by Laurie Metcalf. V is the assistant director in the AIA. She is up under director Chun-Li, and she is the direct contact for the Q Force. She was very, very proud of Agent Maryweather when he graduated, and very took a liking to him while he was in the academy. Well, I don't know for sure if she knew that he was gay or like if she even cared, but when everything went down, of course, Maryweather looked to her, and basically, I think she was able to do something to get him stationed in WeHo. But she didn't necessarily do a whole lot. But we find out that it's much more complicated within the season. Director Dirk Chun-Li. He is voiced by Gary Cole, and he is the director of the AIA. He is in charge of everyone, and he's in charge of everyone, and he also is the reason why I think they started calling Maryweather Mary. He also doesn't seem to have a liking for any woman, gay, or like he's misogynistic, he's homophobic, he's every ism, abia, phobia. He's every phobia-istic, everything that you can think of. Director Chun-Li is all of that in one man. And it's actually kind of funny because while he does have a very staunch stance on how he feels, you can kind of see the rest of the agents kind of taking a liking to the Q Force, which I think is very interesting and so relevant in today's world. Reoccurring characters. Benji is Steve's main love interest. Benji and Steve actually meet once Steve is able to solve a case and they actually get a office. Benji is super sweet and super nice, and he's very understanding of Steve, and Steve seems to really like Benji, but they do break up, unfortunately, after some really traumatic shit. So Benji does not like Steve, and they actually get to fighting at the end, which I felt like was unfortunate, but we will get into that. Benji is voiced by Gabe Lieberman. Chasten Barkley is voiced by Dan Levy. Chasten is Steve's very, very rich friend that he met when he first got to WeHo, when he first got to WeHo, and then he basically finds out that he is a evil billionaire, which is funny because aren't all billionaires evil? Mira Papadopoulos, voiced by Stephanie Beatrice. Mira is basically a play on Princess Mia from the Princess Diaries, and her whole backstory is basically Mia's backstory from the Princess Diaries. And for all the people who haven't seen Princess Diaries, Mia is a girl who has no idea that she is a princess until her grandmother comes to town because her father passes, and Mia is literally the only heir to the throne of Genovia. Mira Papadopoulos is from Gernovia, her home country of Gernovia, but she is an American. She started off as American, but she is the heir to Gernovia. In Princess Diaries, Princess Mia does actually take over the throne, and she does have to get married. There's this whole thing where she gets married and she's able to actually have power, and they kind of go through that within Mira Papadopoulos' story. But just remember that this is a Princess Mia type character. Yeah. Karen V, who is voiced by Niecy Nash, is V's forgotten partner, whom she lost her memory of, and also it becomes important to the story later on. She has been in the wilderness since the 90s, so she has like this whole like kind of crazy aspect to her, but she is very interesting. I do think Karen is a lesbian, but I'm not quite sure if they explicitly say it in the show. Louisa Desk. Louisa is Dirk Chun-Li's assistant. She is also voiced by Fortune Finster. She is actually Dirk Chun-Li's assistant, but she also was on the season of Survivor that Deb was on, and Deb talks about a whole lot. They are actually kind of enemies because they were on the island, so there's this whole thing with them, which is kind of funny. And I don't know if that's like, I'm not quite sure if that's like a stereotype, because I didn't necessarily get it, but if you guys can explain it to me, I would definitely love to understand like how that kind of connects. And last but not least, we have Pam, voiced by Abby Lebgat. I think I said that wrong. I'm sure I said that wrong. Please correct me in the comments if you can. She is Pam's doting wife who, along with Pam, raised their 16 adopted dogs, and she's a children's therapist, and she also helps V unlock a lot of her memories in which she has because of the traumatic things that have happened within the show. Pam does not know at first that Deb is a spy, but she does actually find out. And because she finds out that Deb is a spy, she actually has to go through a lot of things in order to prove her loyalty, which is it's actually pretty funny and interesting, and also a weird way of breaking up the story but keeping it together at the same time. I thought it was some really, really good writing in that situation with Pam, V, and Deb. So yes, those are all the main characters and the recurring characters of Q-Force. Well, let's jump into the plot.
Stunning icon in flight!
The plot of Q-Force is basically a group of highly skilled but underserved LGBTQIA super spies are basically keeping the streets and the world safe, one case at a time. So let's go into our key episodes.
Stunning icon in flight!
We won't be doing key episodes for this Saturday Morning Heroes episode. We will be doing the whole season breakdown synopsis because there's only one season to do, and you need all the context from every episode in order to understand the one season of a story, because they do give us a beginning, a middle, and an end to the whole show, so you get a whole story, which I do appreciate. I think that's a great thing for them to do. So in episode 1, we actually see Steve at his school, and we actually see him being the very best spy he can be. He is number 1 in his class, and we see him like getting ready to graduate, and he decides naively to come out as he's graduating. So his whole class actually finds out that he is gay, and because of that he is assigned to West Hollywood, or WeHo for short. And while in West Hollywood, he does not receive any assignments for 10 whole years. Well, one day, while he is still in contact with his assistant director V, he does actually put a team together of super spies, our original team of Q-Force. So one day, Steve actually wakes up and he sees a gray hair. And when he sees this gray hair, it kind of signifies that he hasn't done anything with his life. And so he's like, I'm going gray and I'm still like stuck in the same place. Something that a lot of us in our 30s can kind of understand. But he does see this gray hair, and it actually is the catalyst to him saying, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to go find my own assignment. If the AIA won't give me an assignment or won't treat me equally, I'll go find my own assignment. So he convenes with his group. We actually see the rest of Q-Force. We have Deb, who is a super spy, but also a super mechanic. We have Twink, who is the master of disguise. We also have Stat, who is our residential super hacker. All super spies, all very good at what they do. So Maryweather asked his team basically if they had any leads on anything that could be, world ending or, worth their time. Twink actually tells him that he may have met a terrorist while he was doing drag at a show. And the terrorist kind of told him that he had like some different kind of materials. And so we actually follow that we actually follow that string and we find out that this is a credible case. And the Q Force actually takes down the terrorist by tricking him with Twink. Because the team is actually able to take down the Chechen terrorists, the team goes rogue, takes down the Chechen terrorists, and basically are rewarded by getting an office because they actually did solve a case. And also they get another person added to the team who is Rick Buck. Rick Buck is Steve Maryweather's rival from the AIA Academy days, and also Rick has actually seen a lot of action, and he is essential to the group because these other spies have actually not seen a lot of action in their days. So V basically tells the team to wait on her arrival so that they can all hack the Chechen terrorists' hard drive and basically uncover the uranium that the Chechens have. But Steve actually can't contain himself and instructs that to basically go ahead and start hacking, thinking that maybe we would be very proud of him for what he's about to do. But of course, as he hacks, Stat actually runs into a firewall where she cannot get it to come down, and it's basically going to send out an alarm to like the world in actually kind of about 2 hours. So Steve actually has to go to Deb to talk to Deb about trying to figure out how to get Stat to work, because Stat, while trying to hack overnight, is exhausted and basically can't function. So they actually have to bring Deb back into the fold. Once they bring Deb back into the fold, they actually double time trying to figure out how to get Stat to hack, and also how to keep Pam from knowing about what Deb actually does. Pam thinks that Deb works at AutoZone, either AutoZone or Pep Boys, one or the other. And she thinks that all of these people around Deb are mechanics and managers. Eventually V shows up, but before V actually does show up, Deb is able to get Stat back right, get her balances back right to be able to hack. She does actually hack, turn off the security alarm that was going off, and everything is saved. But V does show up to Deb and Pam's house, and that is a whole nother situation on where V came from. But eventually they all leave and the day is saved, although V does say something to Steve about him pushing forward without her. So in the B plot of this episode, we actually see Twink and Buck bump heads, where they are battling over a space where Twink has already called his own. Twink has a lot of disguises, so he does need a lot of space, and Buck doesn't necessarily have a whole lot. He just wants the most space, and so they kind of go head to head about it. And we actually see the kind of background on Twink, and we find out that his father wasn't very supportive, and they called him Jelly Bones, and Buck represents kind of like whom his father is. And we actually see Twink go through like a therapeutic understanding that Buck has no power here, and Twink is able to keep his space, and he actually gets over on Buck. And it was actually really a good story for Buck and Twink. We learned a lot about each character. So once Twink discovers that he does actually have some kind of power in this situation, Twink dresses up as Steve, because Twink is a master of disguise, and basically tell Buck to be nice to Twink. And that's how they solved that issue. Moving on to episode 3, Backache Mountain. So as you can tell, it is a play on Brokeback Mountain, but of course that is what's going on. So we find out that the Chechen terrorist has uranium in a mine and is being mined out of this mine. So the team actually has to go undercover to a Wyoming mining town. While in this mining town, they find out that there are disgruntled employees, there are people who used to work in the mine, and there is actually one man working in the mine, and everything else is being automated by the robots. This man who does actually work in the mines, we find out that he is gay. But we also find out that Steve, of course, because he hasn't been in the field, doesn't actually have any seducing and having sex on the job. But Buck, who has been in the field and apparently the top agent for doing this type of thing, whatever that means, is very versed in it. So he pretends to try and be gay, which of course he failed at. And Mary has to step in, and of course Mary is actually gay, but at first Ennis is kind of like cautious, and he's like, hey, I'm at work, I don't want to do that. And so Mary figures out that he's actually not going to do anything at work. So Mary basically takes him back to the, Pound Town, and they do what they do. He gets the secrets, and they find out that robots are actually stealing their uranium. And they also, Twink, Deb, and Stat actually find out in town, and Twink dressed up as Aaron Brockovich go into town and actually find out that the ex-employees are disgruntled and plan to blow up the mine. So they do actually are able to tell Mary that they're going to blow up the mine. Mary is able to save Buck and Ennis from the mine, and they actually get one of the robots, and they find out the AI code that they were using to use the robots to dig the mine for the uranium. So after they steal the uranium from the Chechens, they get back home, and Deb finds out that Pam is missing and has been kidnapped by the Chechens for Eurovision. So in Eurovision, we actually pick up where we left off with Deb finding out that Pam has been basically taken. Q-Force is dispatched to Europe to go to an annual singing competition in Genovia, and this is where Pam is actually being held captive. Tells Q-Force to basically trade the uranium for Pam to get her safe, but don't actually give them the uranium, of course, duh. But everything goes awry because Deb can't actually focus. She is seeing Pam everywhere. She can't focus on the mission at hand. Mary actually gets taken by the Chechens and held for kidnap, and is basically going to be auctioned. Stat actually finds out from her AI that she took from the last episode that everyone comes to Eurovision to do black arm deals in the disguise of a song. So the songs basically are how much they cost, what they're selling, and things like that. After everything is said and done, the Q-Force is set up to be part of the competition and to be part of the entourage for Box Tux by Mira Papadopoulos, who is the princess of Genovia, where this contest is actually being held. And she is one of these contacts because she helped, I think V saves her back in the day. When they do actually have a conversation, Mira is the person that reminds V of who Karen is. So yeah, there's Mira is very important. We find out that Pam, who is Deb's wife, is actually being held captive and disguised as the assistant host to the show. They are able to save Pam, but Maryweather is kidnapped, and he is basically up for auction, but they are able to save Maryweather and get out of there when Deb comes back and helps save the day. Pam finds out that Deb is a spy, and she must go through this rigorous course of being trusted. We Who Confidential. So while Maryweather and Benji are having breakfast with some of Benji's friends, we actually find out that Maryweather is friends with a billionaire named Chasten Barkley, who actually talks to Maryweather and tells him that his assistant Patrick is missing and they don't know where he is. Well, Maryweather finds out that basically Patrick has been kidnapped, like a lot of other actors within the WeHo community, a lot of other gay actors within the WeHo community, and they're being taken by the police department. Maryweather is sent a scooter for himself to actually go throughout the town. Benji's friend Anthony actually intercepts the scooter and is blown up, where Maryweather figures out that someone is actually trying to attack him. Well, come to find out, it is the sheriff that is actually trying to attack him and stop him from foiling their plan, in which they have basically kidnapped a lot of young gays to basically make content for them and churn out content as much as possible to raise funds. And of course, Maryweather busts the police department, but then we find out that Chasten Barkley is a villain, which of course he is because he's a billionaire. Duh. The Secretary's Ball. So after Chasten Barkley basically double crosses Maryweather and the Q-Force, Stat and Twink go undercover as some hackers for his company, honestly, and and they actually go undercover to find out what he is doing with all these young boys, in which he kidnapped from the sheriff department after last episode. So when they find out they're going undercover, they actually meet Toluca Lake, which they find out is his head hacker, but they don't understand why they need so many hackers. Maryweather and Deb actually get invited to Intellicon, which is a big networking event for spies where they actually trade secrets and they meet each other and things like that. So they're actually really excited to go. But when they get there, they find out very quickly that V has other ideas. V wants to break into Chun-Li's office to find out why her memory was wiped and why they wiped the memory of Karen. At first, Maryweather is kind of like, okay. Deb is on board automatically. Maryweather is kind of like, I really want to get to the parties because I want to, meet these guys and I want to schmooze. And while he is there, he finds out that a lot of people do have respect for the Q Force, especially with their big bust through the Chechens. But the other issue without the Chechens is that Chun-Li still has no respect for the Q Force. And quickly, Mary kind of finds that out and decides, that's okay, I don't need to be around these men. And he decides to go help V. Well, come to find out, Chun-Li kind of gets suspicious when Maryweather leaves and they show up. And Louisa Desk and Chun-Li show up to take out V, Maryweather, and Deb. But after Deb and Louisa actually fight, we find out that Chun-Li has V's memory wiped because he didn't show her. He has her memory wiped because she killed Karen. She says that it can't be possible that she killed Karen, and she basically goes on the run. She busts through the window and runs away. Chun-Li has all of the AIA going after her, and Steve and Deb kind of leave, and that's what we solve with that. We pick up in the next episode. We actually find out what's going on with Honestly. So Twink is actually the only person to solve this case, which I thought was kind of cool because Stat is actually enthralled with Toluca Lake and also all of the hacking amenities in this show that they're all watching, which actually solves the whole series, which is crazy. But it's like it's something Cobblestone. So yes, they are watching the Cobblestone show. So Jacqueline, who is Stat's AI lover, and Twink basically go into solving what is going on. They find out that they are using the young boys to press them into oil to make the products work, and that Jacqueline, the AI, sacrifices herself by stopping the machine and blowing herself up in the same process. Of course, Stat is stricken with pain and very upset that Jacqueline is gone. But of course, the young man plus Buck and Twink are actually saved. So we do save the day in those situations. Tarzana. So Mary actually goes to Tarzana with Benji to meet his parents and to attend Anthony's funeral. Anthony, I told you, died when he took the scooter that Mary was supposed to actually take. Benji is kind of nervous about taking Steve home, but of course, Maryweather initially makes such a great impression. He's doing everything that he can. He's making sure everyone is accommodating, but he's also having flashes of Anthony and the fact that Anthony's death is his fault. Well, kind of his fault because the bomb was meant for him, but still. And he's dealing with the fact of like, is he ever going to get Benji hurt because of everything that he's doing, with spying and not necessarily telling Benji that he's a spy. So, of course, Benji's parents love Maryweather and he is making a great impression until V shows up, and V throws a monkey wrench into everything. As you know, she is wanted by the AIA for everything that happened in the last episode, and she won't leave Steve alone. Like, she's told them that she is his parent and that she's his mother, and they believe that that's his mother and everything. Eventually everything goes awry, and the AIA does find out that she is there, and they send Greg in order to take her out. Greg, who is Maryweather's old roommate, who seems to care about him a lot, actually shoots V in the back, which recovers all of her memories. And that is actually where we leave the story. And also Maryweather beats up Greg and leaves him in the bushes to be found. Maryweather realizes that he can't actually have a normal relationship without Benji being hurt or this backfiring on Benji. So he basically says that he can't do it, and he breaks up with Benji for no apparent reason. And it really hurts Benji. And that's the end of the episode. Grayscale. So at the end of the last episode, after V is shot in her back, what she murmurs, Grayscale. So the Q Force investigate Grayscale further, and they come to a doctor in Palm Springs. All of the doctor's patients have issues with their feet, but they also have issues remembering things. And while Maryweather is actually flirting with one of the doctor's patients, they kind of find out that they're all old AIA agents. They also find out that not only are they AIA agents, they're gay AIA. When they find out that they are old AIA agents, they basically find out that they have like braces on their back so their memories can't be wakened. And they find out that the doctor who did it was named Dr. Hammond. They actually go investigate Dr. Hammond, and then Dr. Hammond kills himself and tells the AIA that they are onto them. Deb and Maryweather decide to wake up the other AIA grayscale agents, and they basically turn their car into a magnet. They pull the back braces off of the old AIA agents and are basically able to unlock their memories, where they basically come to and realize that they have been reassigned and decommissioned as agents, and they still have their moves, and they're actually really great agents. Q-Force is actually able to reunite with V, and they find out that V has been able to, V shot in to take Karen away, but V tells Steve that they have to talk about Karen, and that's where the episode ends. The Cas du Lumiere, so I think I'm saying that correctly, but basically is the AIA's information hub where all the information flows through and goes out. And Karen and V had always said that they would basically blow up this information hub. We actually get the backstory on what happened between Karen and V. So Karen actually was gay, and she decided to fake her death so that V could blow up, so that V could get promoted and basically blow up Grayscale from inside. But what they did not count on is the director Chun-Li erasing V's memory. So she actually had been working for about since the 90s, and this is like 2021. So she had been working since the 90s to about 2021 under the assumption that she didn't actually have anyone out there. And Karen, whom was alone and in hiding and supposedly dead, was eating wild animals and different things like that. So she kind of went crazy. And it's really fun because it's voiced by Niecy Nash. And honestly, Karen is very, very off. But she's like, I don't know, like fun. Like she gives off like, I'll kill you, but I'm really fun at, like, it'll be really fun the way I kill you. So I love like Niecy Nash's Karen. I really love all these characters, to be quite honest. This was a really good show. But anyway, so V and Steve basically come up to the conclusion that Karen is a little too off and too ready to basically blow up an information hub that would basically cripple the world's information. Q-Force plus V plans to leave Karen where she is so that they can go ahead and handle everything that they have to handle without her trying to blow up the Queue de la Fear. I'm not saying that correctly. So they actually reach out to Mira. Mira sends a jet for them. They go to the island where they actually meet up with Chun-Li, and there is a huge fight between Director Chun-Li, V, Karen, Steve, and everybody else. Chun-Li tries to get Steve to come to his side, but of course Maryweather is way too smart for that, so he stays with V, Karen, and the rest of Q-Force, which V actually decides that they're going to blow up this information hub. So they blow up the information hub, they skedaddle, but Buck, who was actually on the plane talking to Mira, is kidnapped by Mira because Q-Force downloads all of the information from the hub to Mira's plane. She kidnaps Buck, takes the information, and decides that she's going to marry Buck and has the plane fly home to her. And that is where that episode ends. So Q-Force actually decides that they are going to go and save Buck and get all the information back from Mira, who is planning to marry Buck so that she can have basically power in her own country. She could not have any power until she was queen, in which she needed to get married in order to be queen. And Buck was basically the perfect stooge or whatever. So she also has all of the information on most of the world, so she can do whatever she wants to at this point. I would like to say that this is the season finale, so we do get a few like pop-ins of everybody else. So at the World Pride Parade, which is actually being held in Genovia, Princess Mira has given everyone in Genovia, using the grayscale technology, hats to put on so that she can basically control them and turn them into a gay army, and she's going to do this so that she can basically invade any country, take over the country, and basically rule the world. That is her plan. But of course, the Q Force are on them, and basically, Stat and Maryweather actually have an episode together where they actually go find the horn of rejection, and in order to find the horn of rejection, Mary and Stat have to go into the bowels of Genovia and find all of this set dressing from this show, The Cobblestones. So basically, they find the horn of rejection, but Steve actually runs into Benji, and of course, you always run into your exes at the wrong fucking time. So Mira actually initiates the grayscale capabilities and takes over, and the hats that and the party hats that they put on, Benji actually has one on, and so Benji starts attacking Steve, which is actually pretty good because like it honestly, like he doesn't know what he's doing, but it does feel like he's working out his aggression for how Steve broke up with him through this whole situation. So honestly, if you've ever been broken up with and like out of nowhere it just happened, it kind of very satisfying for you, which I thought was kind of, I don't know, I kind of felt like Maryweather deserved it, and I felt like Benji deserved to be able to get it, right? So after all of this is said and done, we actually see Twink dress up as Princess Mira and basically decides to marry Buck instead and take over the mantle. Mira, of course, not willing to give up, decides to initiate grayscale, and all of the grayscale people at World Pride kind of attack the Q Force. Of course, the Q Force is able to take them down and get the grayscale technology away from everyone at World Pride, and Mira is basically taken into custody. Of course, the Q Force goes back to WeHo. So in WeHo, they actually are celebrated. V celebrates them, and they are promoted. And we find out that Chun-Li is very accepting of the Q Force, but then we find out that Louisa, who is his assistant, who we find out is actually gay, whom he didn't actually know was gay, but we all kind of knew was gay, especially from the Survivor thing. We find out that she is gay and that she is controlling Chun-Li with the grayscale technology. But we find out that the grayscale technology is back in the right hands, and Chun-Li is thankful because no one actually found out about the data breach, or the communications being down for however it was down when Mira had the information. And that is actually how we end the show. And it, like I said, it was a beginning, middle, and end. It was actually a really good story. I did not detail it, like completely break it down, because of course this episode would be like 2 hours long, but the show is really good and I think you should watch it. It tells a great story, and of course, like, if you can't get past other people's sexuality or your sexuality not being censored, you won't like this. But if you can get past that, or your sexuality being censored, then you can enjoy this. I thought it was very fun. I do think that it does lean into a few gay stereotypes or a few LGBTQIA stereotypes out there, but I think that it does it well because all of these characters are what I love the most, onion characters. Like, they're not just what they present on the outside, and I feel like that's a really good character assessment for a spy show. Like, of course, spies aren't what they seem on the outside. I really hate that it didn't get a season 2, but it is on Netflix, so you can watch it, and honestly, it's really good. And like, if you enjoy Wanda Sykes as a voice actor, you're going to love this because she is putting on grade A work, honestly. So I really, really love this. You should go check out Q Force and tell me what you think in the comments after you watch the show. Of course, it won't take you too long because it's only a season, but yes.
Stunning icon in flight!
So Q Force was created by comedian Gabe Lieberman from Brooklyn Nine-Nine and also executive produced by Sean Hayes for Netflix. And it was animated by the creators of Titmouse, which you might recognize from Venture Brothers or Big Mouth. And if you watch Big Mouth, then you'll probably actually like this. I think that's a good comparison. Like, because there were different kind of sexualities dealt with in Big Mouth, and I feel like you can get past the fact that they were kids and you understand that part, you can actually enjoy the show. The show actually generated significant conversations about LGBTQIA representation in cartoons and adult cartoons also, and I think it's a very good representation because it's not like it's not like a friends cartoon, or it's not like a family dynamic cartoon, but it is a cartoon where you show the LGBTQIA community being the absolute baddest of asses and still being exactly who they are and deserving all the accolades but getting none. And I feel like that is a very good adult cartoon concept. I think the concept of the show is really good. I think that like making it into a family, like I think found family is better than like family, you know what I'm saying? So I truly think that a lot of people had great things to say about it, but there are a few that feel like it leaned too far into regular LGBTQIA stereotypes. And of course, when you're trying to push past things, some things you have to let go of. And I feel like the stereotypes are something that you do have to let go of. I do think that it was done in a very wise way. And that's why I feel like it works. And I think the show should have got a season 2. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all for watching. I appreciate y'all for subscribing. Make sure that you guys are ready because we are doing an X-Men watch party on July 1st at 8 p.m. Me and you, we gonna watch the X-Men. Maybe even your mama too, okay? So make sure you subscribe and be ready for that watch party. Also, for our 200 subscriber, we are doing an episode of Small World. We are going to kick off Small World Late Night. So I can't wait to bring you those episodes, and I can't wait to show you what I got planned. I will holla at y'all later. Bye, heroes.